As a child, we all long for a hero. As a society as a whole, we search for that leader that can be our hero. But as we mature and as we grow, it dawned on us that the hero is inside every one of us. And in the world's social media, we all start at zero. And slowly we search deep within ourselves to find who we are. And we have that moment of truth where we embrace that the hero that we've been searching for has been there all along. It is living deep inside of every one of us. And we start embracing that journey and we become that hero that we search for.
Hey everybody, good morning and welcome to episode 43 of Zero to Hero. We've got another awesome guest coming at you today. He is changing the lives of those who need regular medical injections. His name is Nick Love. He is with Lifesciences LLC, so let's go ahead and bring him in. Hey Nick, how's it going?
Doing great. How about you?
Oh man, I can't complain. A little cold, like we were talking about before the show, but we're doing all right, man. So before we get into this whole thing, Nick, tell us what is Lifesciences. Obviously, I alluded to a little bit about it, but go a little deeper there.
Yeah, so Lifesciences, we have been developing a series of injection devices to really improve the patient experience with injectable therapeutics. You go out there and ask anybody that has to take an injectable therapeutic, they'll tell you it sucks, it's awful, it's not fun, they bruise, it's painful, anxiety-ridden. And me and my co-founder, Bradley Hopper, decided that there needed to be a better way to do this. And so we kind of started chasing that path. We are developing a single-use injection device. So think of an auto-injector like EpiPen. But we also have a multi-use device as well that time gates access to injectables. So you can't accidentally overdose or underdose on those injectables either.
That's so awesome. How did you guys come up with this idea? Is it something that's personal to you? I mean, where did it come from?
Yeah, we have a weird story. In between my second and third years of medical school, I took a year off to go get my MBA. My mind doesn't stop working ever. So I was over at the pharmacy school working over there as well. And we were working with injectable therapeutics. And I had one of those pens in my hand with like a red, blue, green, yellow all the way around where you get to pick the color of the pen. And I was clicking it. And I go, this would be cool for maybe a pediatric use where it kind of hides the needle. It's, something they're familiar with. It's less scary, less anxiety for the kiddo. Wrote it down in a book and kind of just forgot about it. I was like, that's a cool idea. And a couple of weeks later, woke up in the middle of the night and my wife, Kelsey's an OR nurse. And I go, Kelsey, what if we time gated access to these, really prevent this problem of overdosing or underdosing on injectable therapeutics? And she goes, Nick, shut up. It's 2 a.m. We'll figure this out later. So I started diving into the problem and found that, 50% of injection non-adherence is from forgetfulness, forgetting to take your medications. And when you're talking about medications like insulin and injectable blood thinners, it's pretty dangerous to skip a dose and it's pretty dangerous to overdose as well. So I started drawing out this idea on pieces of paper because I have no engineering background at all. This was just an idea I had, and started talking with Bradley. And I go, Bradley, can you help me out? And he goes, send me, what you have. And so he got this stack of papers and he calls me and goes, Nick, this is awful. Like, I get the concept, but you got to figure out how to actually design. And so Bradley, basically said, look, Nick, I'll help you design this up front. I'll get you a CAD model. But, he was working on other things at the time. And as he started developing it, he realized, he has family members that have to take injectable therapeutics and was asking around and realized, this really is a big problem for them too. So he calls me and goes, Nick, I'm all in. If you want me here, I'm all in with you. And that's kind of how we got started with MultiPen or multi-use device. And then about, a couple months into developing that product, Bradley goes, Nick, why are we doing this multiple times? Why not do it one time first? Just do one injection. And I go, that's great, but there's other devices out there that kind of already have one injection. There's already auto injectors. How would we be different? And so we decided to ask patients, produced a 400 patient survey, interviewed dozens more patients and really honed in on those problem factors that come with auto injectors. And that's really how everything got going.
That's awesome. What a good origin story. Um, so tell me a little bit about how they actually work, right? So I know you mentioned a little bit about, kind of hiding the needle for
Mhm.
the kiddos, stuff like that. But how does it? What is it different, right? Other than the time release, right, and those kind of things that go with it.
So I'll show you, actually, I have one right here, our single-use
Perfect.
device, our
I
single-use
love it.
device Unipen, right? So this is it. It looks pretty similar to an auto injector. Auto injectors can preload with medication, will automatically insert the needle, and they'll automatically eject the medication. There's a pretty substantial amount of pain with how rapidly that needle's inserted. It causes bruising at the injection site. And then with how rapidly that medication is ejected as well, it kind of forms a painful bubble underneath the skin too. Patients also prefer to control this process, believe it or not. When you're able to control a process, it decreases your sense of anxiety and decreases your perception of pain. And so you kind of have this problem where the auto injector is nice because it hides the needle, it covers all the scary parts of it, but it doesn't provide you the control that most patients actually want to have. And so what Unipen does is the patient receives it in a box with the therapeutic already inside, like any auto injector. They're able to look at the medication in the viewing window right there. They'll pop off this cap right here. And this is the injection site. So there's no needle in this, so you don't have to be afraid of it.
I was gonna say, be careful.
They will press this down against the injection site at their own rate until that entire blue portion is completely covered. They control the rate of needle insertion at that point. Then this portion right here is how they control medication ejection. So they will press that down at their own rate. Once they're at the bottom, the medication is completely done. They will lift off at the end of the device. This locks into place so you can't access that needle again, and you can just throw the device away.
That is awesome. That is awesome. What a good idea, and obviously well engineered as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah, there's lots of trial and error when you get into something, this isn't super complex, but complex enough to where you're back and forth on just about every single detail imaginable.
Yeah, and there's such a human element involved with that too, right? I mean, obviously some people are probably not going to like that control thing, right? But
Yeah.
the bruising is probably going to be better, right? So
Mhm.
there's obviously the human element makes a big difference. But what a great product that you guys have developed. That's awesome. So Nick, let's go ahead and get into it. Not Love Life Sciences, right?
Mhm.
Who is Nick Love? In a couple of sentences, tell us about who you are.
Oh gosh. I have a longer story than I think you're wanting out of me.
Please.
So when I was younger, my mom went through breast cancer. She's doing fine now, but at the time, there was no cure for the type of breast cancer that she had. She went to 3 or 4 different physicians, and they all said, kind of get your life in order. And finally went to a physician over at KU Med, the cancer center, and they said, you know what, we have this new drug called Herceptin, and they put her in the clinical trials for it, and it saved her life. It was really tremendous thing for our family because she's the matriarch, she holds everyone together, and so that kind of started me down this path of medicine. It was really my first introduction. We were in and out of the hospital, seeing how patients were cared for. It really impacted me. So fast forward to when I was an undergrad over at KU. I was working in a medicinal chemistry lab with Blake Peterson. We were developing therapeutics actually in there with organic chemistry. And I was presenting some research at the KU Cancer Center. And Dr. Carol Fabian, the one that had entered my mom in the clinical studies, came up and was just talking to me about my presentation. And she had no idea who I was. But, it was pretty cool to be able to talk with her. It was very emotional. And, I talked to her about what she did for me, my family, my mom, and really how she was a huge motivating factor for me to go into medicine. And it was fascinating because at that kind of point, I realized that there was more to medicine than just the physician. Dr. Fabian was involved heavily in research. She was involved heavily in the cancer center to really get patients there so we could treat them, but also following even therapeutics through the FDA process. And so that kind of launched my interest into the R&D phase of medicine. After my second year of medical school, I decided, let me go get this MBA. The business side of medicine is fascinating. There's thousands of problems in the medical system right now. And that's really where I found my interest in the startup space and really helping physicians and care providers get their innovations to patients. There's this huge problem right now where you have these brilliant individuals with incredible ideas, these solutions to problems they see every day in the hospital or even at home with providing care to patients. But there is this massive, massive bridge that you have to overcome to get that product to patients. And so you go into a room with 1,000 people with these great ideas, and you go, what's the first question everyone has on doing this? And they'll raise their hand and say, how do I get someone else to do this for me? I want to keep caring for patients. I don't want to do that portion of it. And so that's where I find my interest in helping those individuals build their products out, prototype, develop, fundraise, form a company, go through the regulatory process and market and get that product to patients. It's a huge process that I'm hoping to be able to bridge the gap for a lot of people for.
That's so awesome, man. There's so much in there. It's hard to pull so many things out, but no, that's awesome. Obviously, you're an extremely compassionate person, right? You know, throughout your whole life, it sounds like, and what a good story about coming full circle with the doctor that helped your mom out in the first place and getting to present and meet her. That's awesome. So obviously, we're a digital marketing agency. Obviously the business side of medical is different than the actual patient side, which requires that you do a little bit of marketing, right? So tell us a little bit about the social media journey with Love Life Sciences.
Yeah. So at first, social media was not something I was ever involved with, post a picture here and there for myself on Instagram or whatever. Quickly came to realize that if you wanted to meet the people that you needed to meet to make things happen, you had to start networking. And one of the best ways to do that is via social media. In the business world, it's LinkedIn. Twitter's phenomenal because you have individuals that know what they're talking about, providing guidance, providing you resources that you can access. But LinkedIn really is the spot to be networking, meeting people, and communicating with people. So over the past few months, Love Life Sciences has actually been looking to kind of redevelop our position on social media. Our website right now, we're redeveloping as well and really kind of getting an online presence going as we start to scale into the regulatory process with our single-use device. You have to have a presence for people to understand who you are, what your message is, and that's really something that we're targeting.
Yeah, and have you found a difference? So obviously you've kind of been in and out of places. Have you found a difference with the trust factor with having those things more online and more accessible where that brand awareness is there?
Say that one more time, sorry.
Yeah, have you found that maybe the trust factor is maybe a little bit more solidified with that brand awareness on social media, or what has your experience been with that?
Absolutely. I think, you shoot a cold email off to somebody and say, hey, we're Love Life Sciences. You might not even get a response. Majority of the time, you just won't get a response, especially if you don't have any presence online. But if they're able to Google search you or looked at your social media accounts and really see what you guys are looking to accomplish, who you are as an individual, as a company overall, it gives you credibility. Because if I said, hey, I'm Nick Love, I want to talk to you about my company, you go, who is this guy? What are they doing? I don't care. I don't have the time. But a quick search of who we are, you'll find, what we're striving to solve, the problems that we're looking to solve, and that'll give you a sense of who we are.
That's so powerful. Yeah, it's really funny. I heard a statistic, I want to say it was about 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm sure it's vastly different now that things are changing so quickly, but it was 40% of consumers, B2B or B2C, won't do business with you if you don't have an online presence.
Yeah.
And I think that number is probably skyrocketed quite a bit since COVID, right? Since we've lived through a pandemic and different things are going on. I talk with my boss all the time. I think the first place that a lot of people look to see if people are still in business is social media, right? If you haven't posted in a while, it kind of raises those questions. Are you still doing business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you'll see time and time again, accelerator programs for startup companies. They tell you build an online presence, grow a community around you, because those are going to be the people that are supporting your product and supporting your company overall. And so definitely something that you need to be building.
Yeah, absolutely. Good points, Nick. So Nick, every superhero has a defining moment. What do you think yours is when it comes to your life and career?
Oh, gosh. There's a lot. I don't think there's one defining moment. I think every major moment that's kind of impacted my life has changed me in one way or another. They always talk about the butterfly effect, right? You go back in the past and change one small, tiny thing and the future's changed forever. So I don't think that there's one specific defining moment for me. It's really all of these small details and small changes throughout my life that have directed me down this career path. I always talk about pivoting, right? Pivoting in a company, but pivoting in your life too. You have one small factor that changes your life trajectory here, and then another that changes it here. And you're going to be a different person if you take this path than another. And so there's not really one moment, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's a really good perspective on it. And it's really powerful to think that almost every day could be, a defining moment, the choices that you're making and the direction that you're taking.
Yeah.
Right. So that's, really wise, really wise. Now to you, what are the attributes that define a hero?
I think their motivation is really what defines a hero for me. You could be someone that doesn't achieve, massive, big scale solutions to problems, but you could be solving a problem for one or two people, and it really is why you're doing that and what your motivation is. And I have a family friend that told me this quote once, and it was, "To the world you may be one, but to one you may be the world."
Mm.
And it's really that's what a hero is. You can be a hero to one individual. You do not have to be a hero to the entire world.
And I think that quote relates so directly to Love Life Sciences as well, right? I mean, not everybody is obviously taking injectable medicine, especially on a regular basis, right? But for those who are, how powerful is it knowing that you're providing something that really is changing their world, probably in a lot of cases?
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the big factors here is that everyone talks about, oh, you're doing injections, needles. That's not a fun place to be, and for us it is. For us, these people are having to inject themselves every day, a couple times a week, and it's awful. And a lot of patients, more than 50% of patients, won't take those injectable medications that are life saving and life prolonging because they hate the process so much.
Mm.
So if we can make that process better, easier for them, more controlled, that might give them the ability to take those medications and actually help with their therapeutic regimens a bit more.
That's so good. And I wouldn't even be able to fathom the numbers behind it. I'm sure you've probably got a little bit of a better idea. And if you don't, that's totally fine. How many people, just in the US alone fall into that customer base, right? Where they are having to take regular injectable medicine?
Yeah, so that number is excruciatingly difficult to pin down.
Sure.
There are hundreds of millions of people. Well, this is a good example. The WHO has projected that the United States this year, and actually the past couple of years, have eclipsed more than 50% of the United States population with a chronic health condition, which is tremendous. More than 20% of the US population has more than two separate chronic health conditions. So those are things like diabetes, right? Those are things like rheumatoid arthritis, these conditions that are chronic, lifelong. And so a large majority of injectable therapeutics are targeting those chronic health conditions like insulin, Humira, Stelara. They're all medications that these individuals are taking to help with their illnesses. So that number is just crazy hard to pin down on the specific number of individuals.
That sounds like it's quite a bit though. a lot. So that's awesome that you guys are providing something that's better for them. Now, Nick, if you had to pick a superhero, and this could be anybody that you could think of, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you had to pick a superhero in your world that you relate best to, who would that be and why?
So my favorite superhero has always been Superman. And the reason why it's kind of weird. So my mom's name is Robin. And when she was going through all of her cancer treatments and whatnot, my dad got a Batman tattoo on his arm, right? Batman and Robin. It was pretty cool. And so I obviously had to pick a different superhero than Batman. And so Superman just came to mind when I was a young guy and just kind of stuck with me. And so, yeah, Superman's definitely my go-to superhero.
That's your guy. I love it. He's the best one out there. I mean, let's be real, right? So Nick, how can people keep up with Love Life Sciences? How can they keep up with you and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so I think the things to be looking forward to are our website. We're going to be revamping it. Like I said, we're doing that now. Hopefully get that launched preliminarily over the next couple of weeks. So lovelifesciences.com. Our LinkedIn, we're going to be revamping our presence online there too. And so we'll be looking for new posts, new things. And we're kind of getting to the fun part where we're no longer in the hardcore R&D of a device that no one cares about. We're finally getting this thing to testing and really taking some big leaps and steps. So be expecting some updates there too.
That's awesome. So yeah, guys, follow them LinkedIn, check out their website. Nick, thank you so much for doing the awesome work that you do, and being an awesome guest on the show, man.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. You have a good day.